Before we begin, if you like werewolves, eerie encounters, and the unknown lurking in the woods, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe for more chilling tales every week. First encounter. I was halfway through Nebraska when the reefer started acting up. Compressor kicked in and out, cycling like it couldn't make up its damn mind. I was hauling prime beef, boxed and frozen solid out of Cheyenne, headed to a distribution center in Des Moines. Temperature had to stay below -10. Anything warmer, and the meat company could dock me hard. I pulled off onto a gravel turnout, one of those unmarked ones off Highway 2, just wide enough for the rig and a prayer. Crickets, stars, nothing else. Not even a passing car. Checked the reefer controls. -8. Holding. I told myself it'd be fine. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. You get a sixth sense doing this job long enough. Not ghosts or aliens, just the way a strange smell lingers in the air. It smelled faintly rotten, like spoiled meat seeping through frozen packaging. I thought maybe some of the beef in the back was starting to go bad, that the issues with the reefer were more serious than I initially thought. So I pulled over and got out to have a look. I walked the length of the trailer with a flashlight, boots crunching over loose gravel. Then I saw something I didn't expect. Something had clawed a hole in the aluminum siding near the back doors, jagged, torn edges, big enough for a man to crawl through. Deep gouges surrounded it in every direction, as if whatever made them had struggled to get in or out. Fresh, not rusted or weather-worn. At least now I knew where the smell was coming from and why the trailer wouldn't stay cold. I scanned the area around the truck, confused, unable to explain what I saw right in front of me. Nothing, just an empty road, the black stalks of corn beyond the ditch, and the buzzing of crickets and bugs. I radioed dispatch. No signal. No phone signal either. I climbed back into the cab and locked both doors, dialed up the reefer, and got it to stabilize at -11. Told myself it was probably some lunatic, desperate for some free meat. I kept going for another hour, then I called it a night. Still, I didn't sleep well that night. Around 2:30 a.m., the rig rocked. Not hard, not like wind. Something shifted weight. I grabbed the mag light and opened the driver's side window a crack. Cold air rolled in, but it couldn't mask the stench that hit me like a hammer. An absolutely disgusting smell, thick and clinging, like rotten meat mixed with bile and mold. It poured through the small gap in waves, gagging me, sticking to the back of my throat like grease. Before I had time to process, I heard something. Slow, heavy breathing. Then a dragging sound, like something sliding over metal. I turned the key to auxiliary. Floodlights came on. I caught movement in the side mirror first, a flicker of motion too tall to be a man, hunched and swaying. I leaned closer, squinting past the fog of my own breath, and then I saw it. A horrific, deformed face stared back at me in the mirror, drooling like a dog. It was wrong in every way. Elongated jaw warped off-center, patches of gray fur sprouting over peeling, scabbed skin. One eye was red, the other almost black and overgrown. The creature's teeth jutted out at odd angles, some missing, others long and yellow, like massive canines. The mouth moved, slow and trembling, as if trying to remember how to speak. I turned, heart slamming in my chest, and saw it fully now, standing next to the trailer, not far from where I had found the hole earlier. Naked, bent, wrong. It blinked at the lights, then gave a sick moan that built into a deep, guttural growl, the kind that vibrated through the glass and settled in my spine. Then, in one fluid motion, it dropped to all fours and vanished around the trailer, limbs bending like they weren't meant to support anything upright. I didn't breathe. I slammed the rig into gear, engine coughing to life. I peeled out of that turnout, gravel flying, rig swaying like a boat in a storm. The CB crackled a few miles down. Weak signal. "Anyone on 2 eastbound, come back?" I grabbed the mic. "Copy eastbound. You see anything back there?" Something followed me out of Broken Bow. Thought it was a damn bear, but ain't no bear walking like that. Static. Then, "Keep moving, man. Keep moving. Don't stop till daylight." I didn't. Second encounter. They say you haven't really known silence until you've broken down on a rural highway in South Dakota. No traffic, no phone signal, just miles and miles of wheat waving under a pale moon. That's where I found myself, rigged dead on the side of Route 18, 2 hours past sunset. The engine had been overheating for miles. I'd hoped to limp it to Sioux Falls, but hope doesn't patch radiators. I killed the lights, cut the engine, and stepped out to pop the hood. But before I reached the grill, a weird smell hit me. Something foul in the wind, like a mix of old garbage and wet fur baking in the sun. At first I thought a deer must have died nearby, or maybe was stuck somewhere underneath the rig. But then the wind shifted, and the smell got worse. I looked out across the wheat. Something was moving, not fast. A dark shape hunched low, slowly weaved through the stalks on 2 legs. I called out, "Hey, you all right?" and instantly regretted it. The shape stopped, raised its head. Its eyes caught the moonlight, reflecting yellow-green, like those of an animal. But the silhouette was wrong. Too big, too slow, and somewhat human. I stood frozen, trying to make sense of it. Was it someone hurt? Drunk? Lost out here? But it didn't walk right. Its steps were lopsided, its head jerking like it was listening to something I couldn't hear. Then it moved again, this time directly toward me. Confusion gave way to fear as the beam of my flashlight hit its face. It was like shining a light on a nightmare. The skin was stretched tight and mottled, torn in places to reveal raw tissue beneath. One side of the jaw drooped, lower lip torn and twitching, while the other side sneered involuntarily, bearing long, cracked teeth coated in yellow plaque. Its nose was elongated, twisted, like it had gone through some violent, incomplete transformation. Patches of gray, greasy hair clung to its scalp, shoulders, and neck, and both eyes locked on me with a hunger that gave me chills. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the gravel shoulder as I rushed to the cab. I slammed the door shut, locked both sides with shaking fingers, then dropped deep into the driver's seat. My hands fumbled for the wrench under the passenger floor mat. I gripped it tight and aimed the flashlight toward the field, pulse hammering in my ears. Nothing out there. Then I heard it, scratching, light at first, like claws lazily tapping steel, almost playful. Then it changed, became heavier, angrier. Something was brushing up against the frame of the cab, dragging its weight along the doors. My skin crawled. I waved the flashlight around frantically, the beam cutting across the windshield and mirrors, but I still couldn't see it. Whatever it was too close, closer than the light could catch, like it knew how to avoid it, how to stay just outside my vision, just inside my terror. Then I heard it, scratching, light at first, like claws lazily tapping steel, almost playful. Then it changed, became heavier, angrier. Something was brushing up against the frame of the cab, dragging its weight along the doors. My skin crawled. I waved the flashlight around frantically, the beam cutting across the windshield and mirrors, but I still couldn't see it. Whatever it was too close, closer than the light could catch, like it knew how to avoid it, how to stay just outside my vision, just inside my terror. Then the flashlight caught a glint in the mirror, movement, and then a shape pulling itself up toward the window. The creature's face lit up fully as it appeared right next to me. The sight nearly made me drop the flashlight. It was like looking at something once human, warped beyond recognition. The skull had grown too fast for its skin, which tore in places around the jaw and cheekbones, stretched so thin over bone that it looked like tissue paper ready to rip. Patches of fur stuck to the scalp like mange, clinging to moist, blistered skin. Long, wet teeth jutted out from exposed gums, sharp and crooked, glistening with mucus. The nose or snout was elongated, loosely resembling that of a wolf, but too short, too thick, and the eyes, twitching and too large, stared directly into mine. One of its arms moved, grotesquely elongated, dragging claws along the door one with an eerie, deliberate scrape that set my teeth on edge. Then it lifted the hand slowly, almost curiously, and pressed it against the side window. Long, yellowed claws squealed as they slid across the glass, leaving thin, greasy trails. Its palm flattened there, fingers twitching as if trying to peel through the barrier. The skin on the hand was gray, torn and blistered, stretched over bone like wax, and the tips of the claws tapped gently, methodically, studying the surface. It cocked its head, mouth half open, breathing fog onto the glass as if considering whether the thin sheet between us would hold. Then it moaned, not like an animal, like a man trying to scream through a broken throat. Then, without warning, it slammed its head into the side window, hard. The sound was like a gunshot, and the glass cracked instantly, spiderwebbing out from the point of impact. I screamed and scrambled for the ignition. My fingers fumbled, slipping on the keys, but finally I got the engine to turn over. I didn't care about the leaky radiator anymore. Didn't care if the engine block melted right out from under me. I just needed to get away from that thing. I floored it, the rig lurching forward, tires spitting gravel in all directions. Wheat blurred past both sides as I roared back onto the highway, engine screaming in protest, trailer swaying violently. Even if I only made it a few miles, I had to put distance between me and that thing. It lost its grip and fell. Then it ran after me, fast, too fast. I saw it in the mirror, gaining, bare feet slapping asphalt, arms swinging like pendulums. My knuckles whitened on the wheel. After a few hundred feet, it veered off into the wheat on my left and disappeared. Thank God for that. I kept going, pushing the engine past every red light on the dash until it finally sputtered, coughed, and died just shy of a brightly lit truck stop, about 12 miles from where I had seen that thing. I coasted to the shoulder. I could see the glowing signs ahead. Bathrooms, fuel, safety, maybe a quarter-mile off. I didn't wait. I flung the door open, jumped down, and ran, full tilt like my life depended on it. Boots pounding bitumen, lungs burning in the cold morning air. I didn't stop until I reached the lot, stumbled through the doors, and collapsed inside, gasping, drenched in sweat, and safe, for now. Later that morning, when the truck got towed, I found deep gouges all over the driver's side of the cab. There were smears, too, greasy, foul-smelling, like something had marked the rig as its territory. The mechanic asked what happened. I told him it must have been some animal. He gave me a look, but didn't ask questions. I've got a new rig now, and I don't drive at night anymore. Third encounter. The Dalton Highway isn't for amateurs. 300 miles of frozen dirt, ice, and wind that'll chew your rig apart if you blink wrong. Most folks avoid it during early spring unless they're desperate or stupid. I guess I was both. They needed a solo driver to haul generator parts to an oil station west of Deadhorse. Easy run, they said. High pay, no stops. Just keep it moving. You'll be alone the whole way, they warned. Road's quiet this time of year. They weren't wrong. By the time I passed Coldfoot, the only sign of civilization was a closed fuel station. The sky was pale and angry, clouds rolling low like they wanted to scrape the ice off the ground. I watched the temperature gauge drop steadily. 31, then 35. Somewhere past mile 180, I smelled it. Not through the vents, outside on the wind, like wet fur left in a meat locker. I leaned closer to the window. Nothing but snow and the endless ribbon of road. My headlights picked up faint movement in the ditch, but it was gone before I could focus. Probably just a fox or my mind playing tricks. Night came fast. Up here, it always does during this time of year. By 4 p.m., it was pitch black. I flipped on the roof floods and eased down a hill glazed with black ice. Somewhere below, the Sagavanirktok River cut through the tundra. I kept one eye on the road, the other on the mirrors. The trailer swayed a little too much. Then I saw it. Not clearly, just a shape at first. A flicker in the mirror, shadow against white. I leaned forward, squinting, trying to get a better look. Something sprinted along the snowbank, keeping pace with the trailer. Not on the road, on the shoulder. At first I thought it was a wolf, but no wolf runs like that. The way it moved made my skin crawl. It was upright, mostly, hunched forward in a way that suggested a spine not made for bipedal movement. Its legs pumped with a strange, twitching rhythm, and its arms, thick, powerful, and too long, swung low beside it like pendulums. I narrowed my eyes and leaned closer. For a second, the headlights caught just enough to outline its frame. It was taller than any man I'd ever seen, somewhat bulky, with legs that seemed to bend in the wrong places. The head jerked with each stride, tilted slightly to one side like it was listening for something through the roar of the engine. Then, just as fast as it appeared, it veered into the darkness and vanished. 5 miles later, the engine began to sputter. My heart sank. I checked the panel. Pressure drop in the fuel lines. Ice, maybe. I flipped the heater override and prayed. 10 seconds later, it caught again, rumbling unevenly. I pulled off into a lay-by, rig idling, floodlights still humming overhead. Snowflakes drifted through the beams, thick and slow. I climbed out, boots crunching ice, flashlight sweeping the ditch. I hadn't forgotten what I saw, but it couldn't have moved that fast. I exhaled. All clear. I dropped to my knees beside the tank, popped the heat shield, and felt along the secondary line. Sure enough, frozen stiff. I pulled a small butane heater from the gear locker and aimed it low, shielding it from the wind with my body. The warmth crept in slow. I kept checking the pressure on the gauge. 10 minutes, maybe 20, and I could get rolling again. After about 15 minutes, crouched in the snow, my knees were stiff and my back ached. I stood slowly to stretch, arching my shoulders and exhaling into the freezing air. My boot slipped slightly on the packed ice, and as I caught my balance, something caught my eye just beyond the edge of the floodlight beam. Tracks. They cut a staggered path through the snow, coming straight from the tree line, maybe 20 yards out. Wide, deep, human-like in shape, but wrong. Longer than any boot print, and spaced too far apart for a normal person. Whatever made them was covering serious ground. I stood frozen, staring. The tracks didn't fan out or meander. They came in a line, straight toward the back of the trailer. Every instinct screamed the same thing. Get back in the cab, now. I wanted to turn and run, but my eyes were locked on the tracks. My brain kept telling me to get inside, lock the doors, and forget I ever saw them. But my boots moved the other way, toward the back of the trailer. Maybe it was stupid curiosity. Maybe I needed proof I wasn't going insane. I kept low, flashlight trembling in one hand, butane heater in the other, with the flames still burning. The prints led right to the rear wheels, then vanished beneath the trailer. I crouched slowly, angling the beam underneath. Nothing. Just dirty ice, chains swaying in the breeze, and a smear. Dark, thick, frozen in place. Blood, maybe. My breath fogged the beam. Then I heard it again. Something shifting, faint and wet from around the corner. I rose slowly and inched along the trailer wall, heartbeat thundering in my ears. The butane heater hissed quietly in my hand, the open flame flickering against the wind. As I leaned to peer around the corner, the flashlight beam caught something crouched low beside the rear axle. It looked up. Its face was wolf-like, elongated snout, forward-set eyes and pointed ears, but bulkier, distorted, only partially covered in patchy gray fur. The skin around its jaw and brow looked raw, blistered, pulled tight over swollen bone. Massive, uneven teeth jutted from blackened gums, some broken, others long and yellow. The way it looked up at me, intelligent, hungry, and completely wrong, was an absolutely terrifying sight. Then it lunged. I didn't think. I just shoved the heater forward, jamming the flame straight into its face. The thing shrieked, high, guttural, human, and reeled back, clawing at its head as its flesh blistered and sizzled. It crashed into the trailer, then vanished into the snow, growling and moaning desperately. I stood frozen for a second, watching the snow swirl where it had disappeared, steam still rising off the scorched ground. Then I turned and ran, faster than I thought I could in boots and ice gear. I yanked the cab door open, scrambled inside and slammed it shut, locked both sides. I was soaked in sweat and shaking, the stink of burnt fur still clinging to my coat. My hands fumbled the key. The engine caught on the second try. I jammed the rig into gear and rolled back onto the road, tires skidding before they caught. I didn't care if the radiator blew or the trailer shook apart. I just needed to move. That's when I heard it, echoing across the tundra behind me. A howl. Long, angry, utterly terrifying. I didn't stop until I saw the lights of Deadhorse. That run was my last on the Dalton. Now I stay where the roads are salted and people are close, because there are things out there that don't care if you believe in them or not. They're real, and they are not afraid us.